good. I'm happy to have you here. I'm happy that you are not aware that there's also the Helldivers talk going on, but who cares about Helldivers, right? Because we all care about how to make a successful game. My name is Patrick Rose, and I want to talk about 8 major misconceptions about game success today. Things everyone believes are important, but maybe they are not that important. Maybe you should focus on some other things out there. So why am I even here? Give me one moment. That doesn't work. Und es ist abgestürzt. We do have technical issues. Because no technical issues, no fun. Why is it me being in front of you? Oh no, wait. Until we get there, before we get there, I want to tell you, we talk about 4 important topics today, which I call the core pillars of game success. That is user acquisition. You need to know how to get your users. You need to know how to monetize your users, how to make money in the end. And you want to know how to engage them, how to make them have fun, enjoy your game, and so on, and stay in the game. And it's about accessibility as well, which is a topic which we don't talk in the right context about, I believe, in most occasions. And I want to bring this topic up as well. If you're good at all these 4 topics, then you have good chances to have a very successful game. So these 8 misconceptions, myths I'm going to talk about today, will go through these 4 topics, these 4 pillars of success. And now I tell you a little bit about myself, make it very brief. I worked on a few titles which some of you might know. That is, for example, Dark Souls, Elden Ring, early concept phase. I was involved in Elden Ring, working with Bandai Namco on a whole bunch of AAA titles. Also, I'm a mobile gaming expert, a free-to-play expert, premium. I do pretty much anything. Within the past, about, 13 years or so, I'm doing a lot of games research, trying to understand why games work, but what makes them successful on any platform. And these are a whole bunch of partners I've been working with. Among them, you see the Mighty Diamonds. We're here today with the Mighty Diamonds. We are supporting indie studios here with 3 consultancy sessions. Maybe some of you guys have been talking to my colleagues or me, and I hope we can support you a little bit at least these days. Okay, but enough about me. Oh, not enough about me, because something that is really important for me is I want to connect with you. I want to keep the contact up. So something you can really, really help me with is scanning that QR code. I'll do my best. With my content, you can see there, when you scan the QR code, there will be a link tree, and it will say YouTube. And if you subscribe to YouTube, to my YouTube channel, I will do my best to provide you with good free content about how to make successful games. And I want to teach you how other games have been able to make, for example, $100,000 in revenue per day. This is possible with the content I want to share with you. Who has been subscribing to this already? Who is a follower of my YouTube channel? One person, 2 people, 3 people. Wow. Awesome. Who loves Zelda?
I do.
Who loves... What is your favorite Zelda game?
I need a 60. What about you?
And yours? Breath of the Wild, and yours? What? Twilight. Midnight Princess. Twilight Princess. Okay, then we have a winner of... May I show this? My assistant helps me a little bit. I have an Ocarina of Time here. I guess you can guess who the winner is, and he's already come up here. If you want to get it yourself, get it.
Okay.
Yeah, but use it after the show because I still need the time, please.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, show it to everyone. There you go. Congratulations. Thank you for following me. See, people are already benefiting from following me. And the box, you forgot your box. So you can actually carry it home safely. You are amazing.
Sorry, God.
Now go back to your seat. Thank you. All right, let's start. Follow my YouTube. Oh, by the way, another important thing, talking too much about myself today, sorry. I will release a course on how to make successful games this summer. Now early birds have the chance to sign up for the notification when the course is online. And if you sign up now these days or before it's online, you will get a 50% off voucher. Just for your information. You will also find it in the link tree in the bottom of it. It's no commitment yet, but if you want it later, you can still make the decision later. Okay, let's start. Round 1, user acquisition. 2 myths about user acquisition. Myth 1, more playtime and replayability equals more value and more sales. I mean, it's obvious. We make a longer game. We provide more value with a longer game, and we will have more sales. True? Not true? Who believes that is true? Who believes in a lot of playtime is really important to make a lot of money with a game? 2 people. Okay, maybe it's not a myth. Some people are like shaking their head already. So what I see a lot, at Bandai Namco especially, when people pitched us a game, they always wanted to say, we have 40 hours of playtime, 50 hours of playtime. Right. I also feel it myself. When I play Final Fantasy VII, the remake, for example, I love Final Fantasy VII. I love the remake, which, by the way, I don't believe is a remake. It's actually a sequel. They just call it remake because of story and stuff. However, Final Fantasy VII Remake has a lot of side quests, which do not achieve the quality level of the main quest and everything. They are not in particular fun to me. They are almost a waste of time, since I'm also a little bit of a busy person from time to time. I'm quite busy with my work and everything. So, but at the same time, I want to kind of experience the whole game. So I'm these kind of people who still do all the side quests, but it's not very enjoyable for me. And sometimes I feel I would even prefer a game that is shorter and gives me all the good quality in only 10 hours or less, rather than 40, 50 hours. I have also been looking, it's not only my subjective opinion, I've been looking a lot at data at Bandai Namco, understanding which kind of games are successful and everything. And I also our team never saw a correlation between playtime and initial premium game sales. Never. It's a little different if you have a games as a service game. Obviously, you need a lot of content, for example. You have to have the people play the game for a very long time to engage them and monetize on them. However, we're talking premium sales now. More playtime and replayability is not necessarily getting into your sales and not necessarily improving your sales. I have a few game examples. Journey, who knows Journey? Good. It's an awesome game, piece of art in my opinion. And Journey is how long? 2-3 hours? And that's it. I still played it like 7 times or something. It doesn't really offer a lot of replayability. There's something to it, but not really necessary. But it's just a wonderful game. And I'm so happy to have this experience within only one evening and so on. And it's really touching. Other game examples, many games of the Metal Gear series and Zone of the Enders. Who has played Zone of the Enders? Not so many people. It's an awesome game. I loved that game so much when I was younger. AAA experience at that time. However, actual playtime, only 1 or 2 hours. And then the rest is cutscenes. But I loved it so much, and I'm willing to pay $60, $70 for this. Metal Gear 1 especially, was kind of the same thing. Hideo Kojima, he does his stuff. But these games sold millions. Hellblade is a special example. It's a short game, about 6 hours. However, I think it's even too long. They have a lot of very unique stuff in that game, very cool stuff going on, but they thought like, okay, we cannot just release a 3-4 hours game, so we have to stretch it. So you do the same puzzles more or less over and over again, not very enjoyable. I thought like, why do you have that? Just give me the core of the game. My subjective opinion. And again, I backed it up later with data as well. Resident Evil, not super long game. Everyone enjoys it. Millions of sales. Kena, another good example of that. Not too long. Great quality. Hi-Fi Rush. Very unique game. This is why it's sold. And A Way Out. All of these games have something in common. They are pretty unique. And they are special experiences. And they have very decent production values and qualities that you don't find in other games. But not a lot of playtime or replayability. So uniqueness and quality is something you might want to focus on if you want to create your game, instead of creating a lot of extra content just to make the game longer and so on. Focus on your strengths, on your core. So more playtime and replayability, more value, more sales doesn't really work. Instead, focus on your strengths, uniqueness, and quality. Makes sense so far? Too flat for you? You want to go deeper? Or is this kind of the level of depth you're expecting? Okay. I can see your reaction, so that helps me already. Good. Go deeper. Someone says go deeper. I will go really deep. No worries. Virality is a pure marketing topic. Who believes that? Nobody? Well, 2 people believe that. I need some water. Where's my water? Thank you. Okay. Video. For the sound people, video.
Relevant information as oddity. As a game designer, you can actually create the game in a way that it veers toward our viral potential. So how do you do that? Showing off. If they have been able to manage this very, very difficult challenge, they are very likely to share it with other people. Relevant information. How do you deal with a situation in the game? How do you beat a challenge in the game? How do you gather a certain item in the game? That is all relevant information. Oddity. People love to show weird, funny, odd things. That is glitches, as an example. Speed running as well. Anything that is crazy happening in a game will make your game viral. For some pets, it even makes sense to leave some funny glitches in your game if they are not game breaking, just for this fact. Showing off relevant information and oddity will get you potentially some virality.
Put features in your game that people can show off with. Rankings, for example, or anything like this. Difficult challenges and so on. Put things in your game that are odd and weird. Or sometimes you have them in your game anyways, because we all have glitches in our games. And put, what is the third factor?
Oddity.
I got that already.
Relevant information.
Relevant information. I need to share relevant information with other players because I feel it's relevant to them. Dark Souls has this a lot. A lot of stuff is hidden in that world. The game doesn't tell you much, so the community talks a lot. They share stuff. They share videos and everything, thanks to the game design. That's my sister, by the way, and she's a game design student. I love to help her out with some game design from time to time, and I ask her questions like that, so she learns. Isn't that cute? Thank you. So virality is not a pure marketing topic. It's not just marketing. It is your game design already. It starts with your game design. Think of it early on in your game design with everything you create, especially these 3 factors I have been mentioning in my video. And you will have higher viral potential with your game. Round 2. Player retention and engagement myths. Login bonuses and rewards are great to keep players engaged. Who has login bonuses in their games? No one? No one wants to work with login bonuses? There's one person? Okay. Are you even making games? Some of you? Yeah. Okay. In free-to-play games and service games, we see login bonuses a lot, and rewards even more all over the places. Of course, we want to reward our users for performing certain tasks in the games. And almost every game does it to a degree. Why do I say this is not necessarily the right approach if it comes to game success? We see it in the data even. You put a login bonus system into your game, your day one retention, for example, will improve, or your stickiness factor, DAU/MAU ratios in your free-to-play games will improve, or service games. And so why would I say this is not the best way to focus if you want to have a successful game? Okay, now we're going deeper. You want the depth. You will have your depth now. Intrinsic motivation. You have heard of this, right? Intrinsic motivation is a thing that makes us feel fun. When we say this game is fun, we're intrinsically motivated to play, to keep playing. That is basically your user engagement, the retention you get in the long run and everything. Then there's something like extrinsic motivation, extrinsic incentives. You probably have heard of this as well. That is rewards in games. That is the daily login bonus. That is prizes. That is money we get from for our work, or that is also the grades at school and so on. Both is motivation. Both changes something in our behavior. Both makes us play games more. However, there's one thing. Extrinsic incentives are undermining intrinsic motivation. Who knew that? Who knew this effect? A few people, yeah. Good. That is good. This is really important to understand when designing games, and a huge mistakes we all still do and we can innovate with in making games these days. We can still improve a lot there. Even like the biggest games out there are not always getting this right. So, undermining means, in this case, I focus too much on my daily login bonus. You probably have heard that yourself already or have felt that yourselves. You only get back to the game because you want to pick up your daily login bonus. Does it feel relatable? You don't really enjoy the game anymore, but you still come back. Maybe for the login bonus, and then you don't play much longer that day, maybe. Same thing with Duolingo. If you try to learn a language, maybe you used Duolingo before. They have the daily streaks and everything. At some point, your motivation to actually learn the language, to put a lot of effort into learning that language kind of goes away, and you're just there for the daily streak, do it for 5 minutes, but it doesn't really get you anywhere anymore. No intrinsic motivation left, because the extrinsic motivation destroyed your intrinsic motivation, the fun, the engagement. This is called the over-justification effect in psychology. You want to find ways to keep focusing on the intrinsic motivation. How to do that? You wanted to go deep? All right. Let's talk to that guy first, my buddy.
Experiment done actually at Stanford many years ago, in which children in nursery school and kindergarten drew pictures. And they drew pictures because they like to draw. The researchers took kids that like to draw, and they started giving them a reward for drawing. The reward generally was a gold star or something that a young child would find rewarding. Then they stopped giving them the gold star, and what they found is the children had a much lower tendency to draw on their own. No reward. Now, remember, this was an activity that prior to receiving a reward, the children intrinsically enjoyed and selected to do. No one was telling them to draw. What this relates to is so-called intrinsic versus extrinsic reinforcement. When we receive rewards, even if we give ourselves rewards for something, we tend to associate less pleasure with the actual activity itself that evoked the reward. Now, that might seem counterintuitive, but that's just the way that these dopaminergic circuits work.
And that's really important to understand. And we don't want to believe that all the time. We want to get our money when we work, right? We don't want to work for nothing. But actually, that is a big problem in our society, according to psychology, that we focus too much on the money and we lose the passion for actually doing their work. That is a problem in creative jobs, especially when people choose a certain job field because they love drawing, they love art, they love making games. And then at some point, the money takes over and your creativity isn't there anymore. Not so much, at least, as when you were younger, maybe, or anything like this. Very typical effect. Lots of people here probably have experienced it. I have experienced it. This is also one of the reasons why I'm now a freelance consultant, which gives me so much. I focus on my intrinsic motivation. Do the same thing with your players. This is how you create long-term engagement, long-term retention, and you see it in the numbers. Depth. We want to focus on autonomy, the urge to be causal agent of one's own life and act in harmony with one's own convictions. One big factor of intrinsic motivation. Second big factor is relatedness, the urge to interact, be connected, and experience caring for other individuals. Basically socializing, not only socializing, but basically that. Third one is competence, the urge to be in control and experience mastery. My game design philosophy is, with every feature I design and create, monetization, retention feature, or just any kind of cool feature, jumping feature even, whatever, I focus on all three factors and think about how can I get them into this feature. This is how you create powerful engagement, fun game experience, and also long-term retention. When you want to have something like a lock-in bonus, I'm not saying per se login bonuses are evil, but don't just give them a reward. Give them a login bonus that pays into one of these three accounts, or at best all three of them. It's a bit tricky to figure out how that works, but this is why I give my workshops for clients, extensive workshops. We cannot do that today, unfortunately, but this is what I teach my clients. Use these verified psychological systems to create great game designs and successful games. So sorry, yeah, I allow people. One example. Relatedness, for example, very simple clan features. Build a clan feature in your game or something you can socialize with other people. That is not enough. You have to give people a reason that people use to communicate with each other. I've been working on horrible games. They're not really fun to me, to myself at least, that have great retention. How did they achieve this? Because they had this clan system in them. People came back every day to talk to the others, help the others out. The game had features that you can help other players with resources, with everything. They say thank you, they protect you for that, and all this kind of stuff. People come back just for other people. Build your game around this, for example, then you have a relatedness-driven game. And people will be incredibly engaged. Now connect your monetization to the relatedness factor. In your packages, let's say free-to-play games as a service game, in your packages, you put an item, like sales packages. You purchase the package, and there's an extra item. Everyone from your clan, from your alliance, will also receive a little prize when you purchase this package. You do something for the community. Show the other people someone purchased that package. Can be anonymous, it doesn't matter, but other people see someone else did something for me. I'm more tolerant now to also purchase a package. Also social conformity. I see 5 people per day in my alliances purchase something. I feel like I should also do something. Power of relatedness, for example. In my workshops on this, I will go much deeper. I will give you much more examples, or you just check out my YouTube content because it's there too for free. In the center, if you combine these each of these factors is already what we consider as fun. But in the center, if you combine these factors, it's extremely powerful. I have been analyzing the top 100 games of all time in terms of revenue. They are doing a great job on combining these 3 factors. Is that enough depth? Yeah? Go deeper? Okay, let's see what I can do for you. I'll skip that video for time reasons. It's not so important, it's just me, it's not so important. Lock-in bonuses and rewards are great to keep players engaged. No, not necessarily. Short term, yes, you see a change in your numbers, and this is also why all the product managers out there are so happy with integrating a lock-in bonus, and then the bosses come over and say, well done, but they do not see what happens in 2, 3, 4 years with these users, because long-term retention is likely to decrease because the intrinsic motivation is destroyed, the fun. Focus on intrinsic motivation with all your game design. It's so important. avoid the over-justification effect. Who knows Bartle? Who knows Quantic Foundry? A few people. Who loves Bartle? Who uses Bartle for their designs, for example, to show off their player types, for example? At least one person does that. I see that a lot. I see this so much when I look at game concepts and so on. Bartle player types. Bartles and Quantic Foundry's gamer types are great models to understand player motivation. I disagree. They are simplifying something and everyone is happy to have a simple answer. But it doesn't quite work. Why is that? So this is the Bartle model. Bartle, 1996, had some studies going on, some surveys, asking people playing a certain MMORPGs in 1996. What are the audiences in 1996 playing MMORPGs? Think about that. Just think about what type of people played MMORPGs in 1996. What were those MMORPGs in 1996 even? Not even I did that at that time. Because you had to be pretty much of a geek to play MMORPGs in 1996. Mainly male, I guess, at that time. Bartle himself, this model is outdated. He says it's outdated because it doesn't work anymore for games these days, for audiences these days. It works for some very, very particular games, maybe still, but don't use it now for all your games. This is not all your players. This is not the truth. Bartle himself said that. And still, I see game designers using this model so often. My sister is still studying that stuff at the university. They still teach that stuff.
This model seems very similar to the previous
Yeah. That's correct. He says, this looks very similar to the model I showed before. And that is true, because everyone kind of understands what's going on and somewhat is right to a degree. But there's also a lot of problems here with this model. First of all, again, where it's coming from. Looking at a game first. So the audience they looked at is people who play a certain game. And that's it. The self-determination theory looks at all people, not even gamers. You don't need to be gamers. They look at why are people motivated to do anything in life. And then when you understand the person, when you understand people, you also understand why they play games. What is a game even? Why do we even have that weird thing of a game? You can explain this suddenly. With this one, you can just explain why these people played that particular game at that time. But yes, it is similar. He got some similar ideas. It still gets you into a similar direction, but it's not the full scope. You're missing out on a lot of things. And also, it's biased. MMORPG. He says there's socializers, there's explorers, there's achievers, there's killers. It's even hard to define these terms. What is a killer? Someone who kills someone else? So these people have the motivation to kill? Within that particular game, yeah, maybe they had the motivation to kill another player as many as possible, probably because it was rewarded in some kind of system. But this is not a human motivation to kill other people. In some occasion it happens, but the motivation is never to kill someone else. The motivation is coming from somewhere else. Does it make sense?
I think that, right? Next point.
Yeah.
Well, so related to this, if they're filling out, play it. I think that
it is, yeah, you could argue like that. It's a different lens on the same concept from a different perspective. This is basically what he said. To a degree, yes, but it's a more limited lens. And that is what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's entirely wrong, but it's just not the full scope. And that is the thing. The other model is the full scope. Why is that? It takes longer to explain this. The other factors, usually for each of these factors, it takes me 1 hour to go through that with my clients to make them really understand. We don't have the time now, but again, I have content on LinkedIn and on YouTube that goes a little deeper than this. Good? That's why I put it here actually, so you can check it up on YouTube later. So, Quantic Foundry's model. And again, you will say the same thing because it sounds similar. Action, social, mastery, achievement, immersion, creativity. An action, they use boom. I mean, you could argue, yeah, that's kind of maybe the competence factor. You want to feel competent, you want to make explosions and everything happening. Everything blows off because of your power. But from a scientific viewpoint, do you believe that a human motivational factor is to make things boom? Destruction? So these words, I'm saying, they're not very scientific. And that causes issues in the long run to truly understand how a human works, how the human brain works. Also, again here it's biased. They have action, they have mastery. Both feel like they would fit in competence maybe, to a degree, but then there's also strategy under mastery, which to me is actually more autonomy because strategy has a lot to do with decision-making, significant decision-making, the freedom of doing so. So to me, this one looks very, very mixed up, not really categorized well. Some seem heavier than others, while the self-determination theory tries to find more of a balance of everything. So you follow this one, your games will be biased into a certain direction of what they have seen. And what have they seen? Quantic Foundry mainly asks, they claim to ask a lot of people out there for their motivations, why they play games. But they actually mainly ask game devs. The people who know about Quantic Foundry are game devs. The people they target with their surveys are game devs. They don't really ask big audiences out there. And that is another issue. Therefore, this is biased. Again, it's not looking at all humans out there. It's just looking at mainly game devs. You don't have the full scope. That is the issue with these models. And this is actually more complicated because you have to learn all these different thingies and they are kind of being not separated properly, not categorized properly. I prefer going back to the actual human motivation models. And this one is used by a lot of industries since the first time they talked about it was 1977, actually. It was picked up by a lot of industries in the 2000s especially. And this is working for lots of industries. The games industry is not really scientific yet. We need to work more with science and with what people actually are, for example. Still, the games industry is more like a crafting thing. We try to figure out things, we try to put stuff together, try to test it, and then try to explain why it works or why not. But there is a lot of psychology studies out there already which actually explain a lot of human behavior. We should learn that first and build on top of that. That is my approach, at least, and that works really well for me and for my clients. Does it make sense so far? Is it boring? Is it boring? Nope. Okay. Thank you. There is more to it. You want to say, yeah, it's thumbs up? Yeah, I see thumbs up. I like thumbs up. I have very short thumbs, by the way. There's more to it, though. It's not all. It's not everything. We have to consider talking about the self-determination theory. It's a macro theory. It's not telling you about what actually happens in the brain because this is all the micro stuff, the neuroscience and so on. We could dive deeper into that as well, but usually for most game design applications, this high-level model is good enough and works really well. So, however, some other models I usually work with is the Maslow hierarchy of needs, which also kind of includes the self-determination theory on the top. So you also might want to look into that because it's really interesting. The delta, now we're going really, really deep. The delta of like when people are down there going up, that is where we actually feel fun. From going from down, going up. Horror games do something really interesting, by the way, because horror games are not necessarily fun at first. A lot of people hate horror games because it doesn't make sense to feel unsafe. We don't want this. Maslow pyramid says that. It says safety in the bottom. It's one of the main motivations we have. We want to be safe first before we even start playing games. Horror games, however, do something really interesting. They push you down into the unsafe area. And you have a high motivation to go up. And when you make it in a horror game, going from the uncomfortable area up into the safe area, this is where we feel fun. This is why I like to work with Maslow sometimes to explain this delta and how horror games work. And the flow theory, a lot of people have heard of that one. I think flow theory actually, I've heard that a lot, that people claim flow is everything. Flow is not everything. Flow is merely the competence factor, but there's also autonomy and relatedness to it. This is how I also see the connection between different models. And I try to be on a very base level. I try to go as deep as possible and understand what is the most basic level, and then I build on top of that. Bottom-up approach, while the other two models I showed you are more the top-down approach. They look at the game first, try to explain what's going on there without actually diving into these models first. So, and never forget what I showed you before, the over-justification effect. Conclusion. Don't focus too much on Bartle and Quantic Foundry. Focus on humans, not only on the games and the people playing these games. Then you are more open, you create games that are more open for bigger audience, even for people out there who are not playing games yet. This is also a way to innovate and get more people into your games, potentially. Models like the self-determination theory are more useful than Bartle and Quantic Foundry. How to use them in detail, more practical approaches, I teach that in my workshops, usually. Now you have another chance. A lot of self-marketing here, I know, you hate it, but you have another chance. Who is following me already on YouTube? Oh, it's more now. It's more people now. Okay. Who loves Zelda? Did you are following me already? Did you say you're following? What is your favorite Zelda? Wait, the two of you. We have actually two prizes this time. Die kannst du runterbringen. We have from Akihabara, brought to you because I'm freshly coming from Japan. I spent a month in Japan to find the best prices for you. From Akihabara. Last week I purchased them. Brought to you by the Mighty Diamonds. Good job. So now you still have the chance to scan the code, by the way. Okay, monetization. We still have 70 minutes. Are you getting tired? Anyone getting tired? Good. Pay to win is bad. Who thinks pay to win is bad? That's not so many people, actually. So you think pay to win is good? Who thinks pay to win is good? Well, what about the rest of you? Yes. Pay to win is bad. Let me tell you something. That is a very complex topic, much more complex than we think, and it's a very emotional topic, and that is an issue, especially when we're talking science. What is pay to win even? What does it mean? What is the definition of pay to win? As a games researcher in my early career, it was my job to understand what is that, what does it even mean? How do we avoid pay to win? And you will figure out it's actually not an easy question to answer. And I don't have that answer for you because the problem about it is it's a very subjective one. What is pay to win for me is maybe something really different to you guys and so on. And we see that all the time. No matter how many people we ask, it's not objective. Pay to win is merely a subjective feeling of something is unfair, something is not going right, something is not going the way I want to. However, what we have also been seeing is that a lot of games that technically use pay to win, if you put a lot of money into a certain game, I won't name any specific games now, but there's some games out there, if you put a lot of money into them, you could, in theory, be better than all the others. You could battle them all the way and everything. Could be super strong. However, nobody realizes that. Nobody says it's pay to win anyways. And that is a very interesting phenomenon. Because me looking at games from a very technical perspective, I think that is clearly pay to win. Why is nobody complaining? And why is everyone saying pay to win is bad when in this game, apparently it's accepted? So there are techniques in free-to-play design and games as a service design to make pay to win, technical pay to win, not being felt to be pay to win. This is the rocket science of games as a service monetization. It's not easy. Another topic I usually teach in my workshops, and again, I cannot go too deep into it, but I want to open your minds for this. Not just saying pay to win is bad, because pay to win might be just the thing that will save your game if you do it right and people still feel it's fair. Pay to win is the most powerful monetization method even, if done right. But it must not feel like pay to win. If you understand this concept, then you understand the core of extremely successful games as a service monetization. Make it indirect and unnoticeable so that nobody will mind. It sounds very evil now, I understand that, and I'm sorry for this. But it's not as evil as it seems. I would love to go through more game examples so you understand what I mean in more detail. Cannot do that here. But I got YouTube content. Premium is fairer than free-to-play. Who believes premium games are actually much fairer than most free-to-play games? Tried a few. I thought that too. I sound a lot like a free-to-play guy now, but actually most games I worked on are premium games. But and most games I play are also premium games, by the way. So as a player, I'm a premium guy. But when I look at the facts and what happens out there sometimes, I also understand how blind I am sometimes. This is a little, it's not the best kind of image I have for you, but I'll try to explain anyways. So this is the timeline of a game. Release is on the right. -1 means 1 year before release. 1 year before release of a AAA title, we start the marketing campaign. Not always, sometimes later, sometimes earlier, but something there. We try to push user engagement with the game, with the actual gameplay, with the actual good game design? No. With game trailers, with convincing people that our game will be great, with making promises that are very difficult to make 1 year in advance. Especially if you dealt with big productions, you know that. It's not gonna be easy to keep all the promises. So later you will try so that people forget a lot of things. We had a lot of dramas out there. You know that. Cyberpunk, for example, initially. No Man's Sky initially. Big dramas out there. And some of these things have been actual straight up lies. And we still think premium is such a fair model when all our engagement comes mainly from the hype before the game even releases. So what do free-to-play games have to do? What do they have to deliver to engage you, to truly make you feel fun and being engaged in the game? Free-to-play games often start their marketing with the actual release. The game is ready to play, maybe a smaller version of it to test it first, MVP, minimum viable product approach. A lot of free-to-play games have that. And then they test. Do people play this? Are people getting engaged with this? Do they like it or not? They see it in the numbers right away. According to this, they will design the game in a way that you like to play it and like to spend a lot of time with it for free. And then they do everything to keep you engaged with the actual game and with the actual detailed game design. And then also on top of that, there's marketing. On top of the line, there's the marketing, engagement coming from marketing. On bottom of the line is engagement coming from the actual game. This is basically how service games or free-to-play games engage you with the gameplay. Yes?
It's also marketing is so early, and it's a risk that use.
Yeah. If you start early with the marketing, there's a risk that you lose the hype. This is why it's called a campaign, and that is what marketing managers do. They keep the hype up as long as possible. They have a big plan and strategy for that, right? This is marketing all about. But their marketing managers usually focus on marketing only, try to use as much material from the game as possible, but if there's not enough material from the game, well, then they need to get the material somewhere else, maybe from imagination in some cases. I'm not saying it's always dirty. Most cases, actually, it's fair enough, but there's also a lot of cases where it's pretty dirty. So, and in many occasions, I don't find it fair that there's a lot of good free-to-play designers out there who are really, really awesome designers, but they are often seen as the unfairer type of games. One very typical example is tutorials in AAA games. They are horrible in most occasions. Text boxes. I want to play the game. I want to experience myself. If a free-to-play game came up with this kind of approach, they lose all their users day one. They need to have good design, which is fun in the first seconds already, and you don't have to fight through a big tutorial. If they do that too much, they lose their users. They cannot survive. AAA games sell you the game already for $60, $70, $80 these days. And maybe it's a very bad experience in the beginning, but you're so hyped from the marketing that you will play through it anyways. In a free-to-play game, you wouldn't play through it, even though the game is good, when the tutorial is not right, the onboarding. So therefore, I would really appreciate if all of us, and it took me some time as well, understand that premium is not always fairer than free-to-play. Free-to-play lets you try the game first, and then you decide do you want to keep playing or not. While premium gets your money first, and then you already paid them the money. They can basically do whatever they want after that, which is not entirely true. It's not that easy. There's also like a long-term vision. But for some games, it has been like this. So, free-to-play needs very smart design to survive. Premium relies often on marketing more than we actually realize. Often the game is not even that much fun, but we believe it's so much fun because the marketing hyped us up so much, if you know what I mean. Round 4, I have to go a little bit faster, so maybe we can still have some questions in the end. Accessibility. This is a really important topic for me. And it's highly misunderstood. When I talk accessibility, most people think of something like this. Accessibility only targets few players. And it's a very nice thing to take care of accessibility, but it's also somewhat optional, and it's only for a few players, and we have to look at our budget. Can we really provide extra services for these few players? I'm saying no. I'm saying accessibility is not only for a few players, it's for everyone. And I think it is not the right approach to think of accessibility as just for certain smaller niche audience or anything like this. Why is that? Because I'm a busy person. I don't have children yet, but imagine the person, the CEO, single parent of 2 children who loves games. That person really would love to play Dark Souls, all these kind of games. Baldur's Gate even, maybe. But they cannot. Why is that? Because they have to take care of 2 children, they have to take care of their company and everything. They even have the money to pay for it. They could buy all that stuff. But they don't have time. It's not accessible to them. What do I need to do to play Baldur's Gate or Dark Souls or Demons or Elden Ring? I need to purchase a console. I need to set everything up. I need to turn on everything. Oh, there's an update. Okay, that's going to take 3 hours. All right. Okay, now evening is over. Let's go to bed. I'm tired. Just thinking about that process kicks a lot of players out of your game because they know it's not accessible enough for them. Even though they are very capable hardcore gamers, physically, completely, no issues, anything like this, but accessibility is still important for them. The accessibility basically is the quality of being understandable or enjoyable without a lot of effort in the context of games. The lower the effort required to enjoy the game, the higher its accessibility. High accessibility does not mean that the game cannot be difficult. It can still be a hardcore, difficult experience. Accessibility doesn't mean making your game easier or less complex. One example is Zelda Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. A hardcore gamer enjoys that game. It's a deep and difficult experience, potentially, but it doesn't have to be. There's so many workaround solutions, so many different ways to beat the game that a lot of people can enjoy that. Also, it's on Switch. The Switch is such an accessible console. I can bring it with me, I can just turn it on, jump right back into the game. That is a perfect game for the CEO, single parent of 2 children. Have that person in mind. Design the game for that person. Don't make it easier. Have it deep, complex, hardcore, but make it accessible so that person could also enjoy it. Then you will have a much broader audience. And that works. This is also one of the reasons why free-to-play games work, why mobile games work. Accessibility. Why Fortnite was stronger than PUBG in the end. They reduced the price to $0 instead of $40. They had a more accessible art style. Not everyone prefers that art style, but everyone understands it easily. All these kind of things. This is how we explain the great success of Fortnite over PUBG. High accessibility equals a game can be enjoyed by many people. More audiences for you. There's a whole bunch of areas you can think accessibility. You can think it in basically every aspect. I'll not go into details, but here's a list of them. Curb cut effect. Anyone heard of that one? Curb cut effect? Curb cut effect, anyone? I thought so. Oh, awesome. That's great. Curb cut effect. This thing there, the red thing there, is a curb cut. It makes it easier, obviously, for wheelchair, people in a wheelchair, using a wheelchair, and also for a whole bunch of other people, like even the skateboarder there in the back. Maybe you see that one. Even that one, who's kind of your pro hardcore gamer, who's really, really good at playing games, but even that person appreciates the curb cut with the skateboard. Think like this. Design your games like that. You will have more audience. People will appreciate it. They will actively think about it, actually. They will just think of your game like, oh yeah, I can play it and have fun with it in a very simple way. This is also why Candy Crush Saga makes so much more money compared to Dark Souls, which I find kind of sad, but it's just happening, and I'm just giving you the explanation for that. Accessibility only targets few players? No. Accessibility benefits everyone and is one of the greatest drivers for innovation. You want to innovate? Don't focus too much on special, unique, crazy features. Focus on accessibility first. It's often cheaper. It doesn't need a lot of creativity. And it's just something people will appreciate. We need tutorials to explain players what to do. We only have 2 minutes left. How do I do this now? Oh my god. We don't need tutorials. I have 3 awesome videos for you, which I like to show you, but time. Oh, that one is looks sketchy, but it's not as sketchy. Let's watch that one. We have that minute.
In general,
That's why we're gamers, right? That's why we're playing games.
I would enjoy a visual scene way more if there was maybe just a voice telling me, oh, you have to press that button now. You know, I don't want to read.
Right, that is the whole topic of accessibility here, actually. I think sometimes it makes sense to have the text, but I think it's more important to, as a narrative designer, to have everything ready, the whole plot, the whole text, everything in my mind, and then think about what are all the tools I can now spread my plot all across the world. And this is exactly what you say, that it's environmental design, that is how the characters act and interact with each other. I mean, you can say, your character is sad now in words, or you just show the character crying. There's so many ways to convey your story, to convey your narrative, also to convey your tutorials and teachings and guidance in the game. And it doesn't need to be text. This is not what we're playing games for, right?
So, what I'm saying here is only one of many examples. You don't necessarily need text in your games. You can convey a story in so many different ways. Facial expression, maybe even put that challenge on your desk for next time. Try to think of a game that tells an emotional story entirely without any word of text. And then you will get to so many ideas that are more accessible than text in the end. Emotions and faces, the music and everything. I have a whole bunch of game examples that do that very well. I would love to go through them, but I've been talking too much. We basically had our Q&A already, because I always love to answer your questions right away. So we don't need tutorials. That is my final word. Accessible designs and the power of extrinsic motivation. That is what you need to focus on. Last chance to connect. Who is following me? You were the first person putting your hand up. You get the last prize, which is a Zelda music box.
My God.
It's in there, somewhere in there. That's it. That's it. Brought to you by the mighty diamonds. Many of them over there right now. Thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to give me feedback as well. Anyone hated it? Anyone liked it? Well, more than 2 people. Awesome. Thank you. Have a good event.